Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop early holiday deals now.
Anyways, we're getting ice cream. I'm like, okay, cool. We did this audition. It went well. And the agent was like, she had to call my dad, and my dad called my mom, and she was like, hey, they want you to come right back in.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. If this is your first time tuning in, this is a show where I speak to fellow actors about their journey in the industry, and I make them share some fun audition stories. If you're not following the show yet on YouTube, go to our YouTube channel and check that out. We are now posting the full videos from these interviews, so go watch, subscribe, tell your friends. All right, enough with the housekeeping. Hope y'all are doing good. I am in the suburbs of Philadelphia, out here helping on a campaign to, get the vote out. So that's been cool. Yesterday I saw the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall and went to the, I think it was the National American Revolution Museum. I just did all of the historical things. I went to Betsy Ross's house. That was cool. And yeah, it was really awesome. I'm very excited to be out here. If you live in America and you're not registered to vote, you should go do that right now. Go make sure that you're registered. If you haven't registered, do it. And yeah, that's all I got for you there. Today on the show, we have Trevor Larcom. I know Trevor from directing him in 2 feature films, but you may know him from Fresh Off the Boat, True Detective, and a gazillion other things. Today we're talking about, what it's like transitioning from a child actor to an adult actor and so much more. It was so cool to talk to him and see him in this adult light because I knew him as a little one. So it was very cool. Here's my conversation with Trevor. And welcome to the show, Trevor.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I've been doing good, as good as you can be in life. Life's up and down, but doing good.
Good. For the viewers and listeners who don't know, Trevor and I did 2 films when you were much younger, and I directed you, and you're fantastic.
Thank you so much. I remember those days. That was a while ago now. And
yeah.
It's crazy to look back on that. I'm sure it's crazy for you to see me change like that too. It's
such a bizarre experience because I know when I was a kid, people would say that to me as an adult. Once I grew up, oh my God, it's so crazy to see you all grown up. And I never really got it until I directed those films. And now all of you of my little babies are full adults and doing things.
Right. It's crazy. It's
so weird.
It's insane.
It's so weird. But I love it. And I love watching all of you just explore and find your voice and become these amazing creators and people and humans and adults. It's weird, but I love it.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a crazy thing, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I'm sure it's nostalgic for you to look at that, and it's crazy.
It is.
That's all it is.
It is. It's crazy. Well, the first thing I always love to ask everyone on my show is kind of an interesting question for somebody like you and me who grew up in this industry. But I love to know what made you want to be an actor.
So my like getting into acting story is pretty it's different than a lot of people because when I was super young, it wasn't like a thing that I was like, hey, I really want to be an actor. Like it'd be so cool to be like on screen and see myself and be like famous or like whatever, right? Like it was never like that for me. What actually happened was my dad retired early from Chevron Oil when he was about 45, so he retired pretty young. And my mom and I had me when I was like when they were a little bit older in life, and I was a young kid, so I was a lot for them to handle. I was bouncing off the walls and stuff, doing young kid things, you know. So I was about 5 or 6 years old, and one of my mom's best friend actually worked for an agency. So her name was
Oh.
Kathy Keeley. She worked for a Jana Luker agency, who was my first agent, and she pitched the idea to my mom. She was like, "Hey, Trevor has red hair. He wants to do like play baseball. He wants to go do all these things. Why don't you just like have your husband take him to like some auditions for fun? Like it's not like something like, oh, you're gonna go to these auditions. I was like, sure, let's do it. I want to do something, you know. So that's kind of how I got into it. So I booked my first job. It was a Wiener Schnitzel hot dog commercial. I don't know if are you
Oh
familiar with
my
that?
Lord, yes.
It was a pretty funny thing. So I was like just a little kid, and I was like, it wasn't a huge like thing, but I was just there, and like some guy was for the chili cheese fries. That's what it was for. So I was a young kid, and I thought it was so cool. I thought it was the coolest thing because I was like, "Hey, I'm here. I get to be in this." And the it was filmed at a Wiener Schnitzel, and I liked Wiener Schnitzel at the time. And I was like, they gave me free food. I was like, I'm living the life. I'm
Yeah.
6 years old. I'm freaking eating, doing whatever I want, getting filmed. I was like, this is sick. And I mean, if that was like all acting was for me, that would have been fine. Like I never had any expectations of doing like films or TV, anything like that, or seeing myself ever. Is like that's kind of how I got into it. So it's kind of
Wow.
a different story than
Yeah.
a lot of people.
But I love that. I mean, I think when you get into the industry as a child, it's interesting because it's like you don't really know what they mean when they say like auditions or like acting class. You're like, what is all of that? And then you start doing it and you're like, oh wait, this is really fun.
Exactly. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to the acting class, like whatever that is, you know?
I love that so much. So were you guys, you weren't in California yet when you did that, right?
No, I was born
You
in
were
Los
in
Angeles.
California. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in West LA at the Cedar-Sinai Hospital,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I lived there till I was about 6 years old, and then, funny enough, I have another story about how I got into it. So, in 2008, so I was 4. That's when the market crashed. My family had they purchased a bunch of property in like Bakersfield, California. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's
Yeah.
about an hour and a half north of LA, and we decided to move up there. And
Mm.
as soon as we moved up there is when I started booking stuff. So we'd have to drive down every day, audition, audition, audition. It'd be like crazy.
That's wild. That is a
Yeah.
crazy drive. I remember I had a friend growing up who was in the industry too, and she lived in like I think it was like Apple Valley. And so she
Okay.
was doing the same thing. It was like her and her mom were just on the road constantly.
Yeah. It's a grind. It's definitely a grind, especially if you're making the commute to LA, like Santa Monica,
Yeah.
rush hour traffic for an audition. It's
It's
you
so
know how it
fun.
is.
It's so
Yeah.
fun.
No. No.
Well, tell me a little bit about working on some of these huge shows that you were on, like Fresh Off the Boat. Tell me about that.
I mean, it was Fresh Off the Boat was a really crazy one for me because obviously that's like the main thing I've done. I did 70 episodes of that.
Wow.
It was on for 6 seasons, and the main thing for that, I grew up on that show. Like that's what I knew. Like I was like I had my life outside of the show, but then I had my life being Trent. Like
Mm-hmm.
because it went on for so long, and I evolved in the show. I had different like things. Like when I first started, I was like not friends with Eddie, and then I became friends with Eddie, and then like it just kept evolving in the show, and it was like it was a part of me. It was a big part of like who I was, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was definitely a great opportunity, a great thing to be on. I mean, I'm very proud of it, and I look back on those days, and I'm like, I can't believe it sometimes because like I look back and I'm like, that was me. Like that's crazy, right?
It is pretty wild for a show to be on a show that has, lasted that long to really be able to go back and see so many of your pivotal childhood years play out and just be able to
Yeah,
rewatch it whenever you want.
exactly. and you just think about like all the little behind the scenes things that nobody sees, but like what happened, like how they filmed it, like funny little things in the episode when you were filming it, like all the little things that come back to you is the main thing.
Mm. What about working on True Detective? I mean, that's a crazy show. How was that for you as a kid?
That was a crazy show. That's a great way to put it. But that was actually really cool. I have an audition story for that. We'll get into that in a little bit, but Colin Farrell was an absolute gem of a person to work with. He's an amazing person. I don't know how people see him on the internet, but he is a lovely person. If you guys aren't familiar with my role in the show, I was his son, and in the show, he's a detective, and he had to be really like mean to me in the show. But after every single scene, he would always be like, "Hey, like, are you okay?" Like, because it was pretty intense. It's an intense show, and for like a young kid working on that, but he was always very like, are you okay? Like, he was a very good guy.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think it's so important, especially when you're dealing with, intense subject matter with a minor. It's so, I don't know. I just feel like some people kind of just pass it off and they're like, all right, let's just go to the next scene or let's just do the next tape, blah, blah, blah. But it's really cool to hear somebody like Colin Farrell, who's been in the industry for forever and is such an icon, really like take that into account and understand what it was, must have been like for you.
Right, exactly. Because he doesn't know what's going through my young mind at that time.
No.
So, but that was really impressive. He impressed me a lot. He was one of the guys that I worked with that I was like, wow, he's how everybody should be, like an icon, as you said.
Total icon. I adore him. What did you have, any sort of process as a kid to kind of let that go, leave it at the set, or how did you deal with it?
I wouldn't say I had a specific process, honestly. I think that I understood that it was work. I understood that I was going to work, and like I had my time at work where I had to be very professional, and then I had my time outside of work where I could be like myself and be, a kid. And I think that I had a very good balance of that, and I think I can thank my parents a lot for that, because they weren't like, hey, you have to like do all this and this and this. They're like, you have to be professional, which is a big thing for a child actor. And I was like, okay, like be professional. I'm gonna learn my lines. I'm gonna show up and do what I have to do, and then when I get to leave, I get to go, do whatever I want. And I'm gonna go to work as people do, and then after work, I'm gonna go do what I want.
Yeah, I have to say, I have to give credit majorly to your mom. I love your mom so much, and I know that our moms talk all the time still.
Yes.
She and my mom, they remind me of each other in the sense of like they're so grounded, and they both did such a good job of saying like, you want to do this? Great. You can do this, but we're going to be normal humans.
Exactly. I love my mom so much, and I can thank her for everything she's done. I mean, she's been an absolute amazing mom, and I think that the way you put it, very grounded, like not like forcing, not like anything like that. Hey, you want to do this? You don't want to do this? Hey, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And definitely a great way you put it.
Yeah, she recently sent, or I guess it wasn't recent anymore. I don't know. Time doesn't really exist in my brain, but she sent me, it's an old theater magazine that she found. And she was like, she asked my mom, she's like, do you think that Jillian would want this? And I was like, yes. And I still have it. It's like perfectly preserved. It's from like the 1920s. I'm like, what? This is incredible.
That sounds like my mom. She's always got something random going on. It's just like, you never know.
It's so cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, we kind of talked about it before we started recording, but I'd love to, get your input on this. Is a lot of people don't understand the major transition that takes place when you've been a child actor and then going into your adult years, and kind of what that not only mentally does for you, but the actual struggle that it is reestablishing yourself. And I'd love to know what, your process has been and what you found is working and not working.
Definitely. I think the way you put a struggle, it's a lot different. It's the child acting world versus the adult acting world is completely two separate things, and not a lot of people understand that. Mm-hmm. And the best way for me that I've experienced it recently, I'm 20 now. I got in the industry when I was 6, so I've seen a lot of change in myself, a lot of change in the way that people treat me, when I go to auditions or when I work, people start respecting you more in the industry, but there's also more expected of you when you get older. And I think that that's a really big thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's just a thing that happens. You get older, people start expecting more from you. Um, but for me, I think the way that I've changed, not just in the aging department, but I've lost a lot of weight. Like I've kind of rebranded myself as like who I am as a person outside of acting. So kind of like having to do that, and then also that affecting the acting world for me. I think that that's been the biggest thing for me. And I think just rebranding myself as not like the funny like big fat kid anymore. It's just like a man. Like I'm acting as like a man now,
Yeah. It's so interesting because I mean, when I became an adult, my agents and managers were all kind of like, yeah, everything that you did as a kid, you just throw that out. Like, you're basically starting over.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, what do you mean? I put in all this work. What do you mean?
Exactly.
But it really is. You have to kind of find your voice and how you want to be represented now to the world.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Whoever told you that, I completely agree. You have to just, it's like two different lives. You start your acting life as a child actor, and then your acting life as a child actor dies when you become a certain age, and then you have to start your new life as an adult actor. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I just recently learned too. Like kind of the same like realization you had. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I did all this stuff. Like I was this person, this person, this person. Now I have to forget that. I don't want to do that. But you have to, and that's a part of growth, and that's a part of the industry, and it's normal.
Yeah. What has been like the way for you to kind of navigate finding yourself as an adult? Have you done classes? What's been like the biggest influence on you?
As far as like in the acting world or just in general life?
I'd say both, because I think especially for people who are listening to this who may be taking this transition as well, I think it's important for us to talk about, being a full human outside of acting as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, as far as my life outside of acting, I think that just getting better habits and getting like building good habits and building myself up, and not super like dead focused on like acting, like I need to do this, and this, and I need to focus on this. Like, no, I have other hobbies and I have other like professions that I do. And like, although I'm not saying like I don't prioritize acting, but I think that's the main thing. You have to build yourself up in other categories too. You can't have like one specific thing that you like have all your eggs in the basket. And that's been the main thing for me is I have a lot of like, I'm in a lot of different places mentally, like as far as like doing things. Like I love to golf. I love to go to the gym. I work out every day. I try to eat as healthy as I can. And I have an investment company with my mom where we like work on properties together. And it's like, there's a lot of good things that like I do outside of acting. So acting is just like one added benefit that is obviously a big part of my life and has been for like my whole life, but it's not like the sole thing that I'm like, oh, if I don't get like this job this time, I'm going to like freak out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to have that balance in this industry. Otherwise you'll absolutely drive yourself insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Not many people understand that. People think, because in life, I mean, you put work in, you put effort in, and you expect results. But acting is unforgiving. Like you could put all the effort in, you could do everything right, and sometimes you just won't get a role, you won't get a call back, and it is what it is. And that's something that is just hard about that industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because 90% of the time it has nothing to do with you, how good you are. It's all about what's in, the producer's head, the director's head, and it's not anything to do with us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is so hard to get through your brain.
And it's hard to like take that in and be like okay with that, but you have to be.
Mm-hmm. You have to be. Have you done like any sort of like classes lately that you found beneficial, or have you found like a way to break things down that works for you now as an adult actor when you're doing auditions?
Mainly, well, ever since I've been young, I've worked with my mom a lot, and my acting coach, Bo Kane, he's been with me this whole time. And anytime there's like a big role that I have, like I'll still go back to him. So, and he's been in the industry forever. And my mom, she's always been there for me, and she understands like the transition as well.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been around it, and mainly just those two people have been very influential on like prepping me or getting me ready for a role or helping me understand like the difference between like, hey, like if you have this role, like you're kind of saying it how you would have like when you were a child actor. Like you're not that anymore. Like you're this person now. Like you're like like you're supposed to be like a handsome guy in like this show. You're not supposed to say this like, oh, I'm the big chunky like funny guy.
Right.
So you say like things differently, and I'll catch myself sometimes like still being that person in roles that I'm not supposed to be, and they'll tell me, and I'll fix it obviously. But that's been the main thing, kind of just like understanding that the roles I do now are a lot different than the roles that I did before.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought, right?
Yeah, I mean that's just such a crazy thing to try and break down in your brain and kind of just, it's almost like you have to retool how you think about yourself, which is
exactly
wild.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's wild. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors, including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And back to the show. Well, I love to ask people about audition stories, and you mentioned True Detective. So is there an audition story that you would like to share with our listeners?
I do. I have one about True Detective that's a quick one that I just thought was cool, and then I have a one that's kind of a more involved story. Yes. So for True Detective, obviously I was young, but I still understood that it was a big role that I was going out for. Like, my mom was like, "Oh my God, Colin Farrell. He's like so handsome and all these things," right? And I was like, which made me like, I would get nervous at auditions, like, but not super nervous. But when things like that happen, I'd be like, okay, this is like super serious. I need to be like as good as I can be. And so I went into the first audition. It went well. Got a call back. Callback went really well. And then for the third audition, I go to the audition. It's like you know how like, I don't know if the viewers like know this, but like the first audition's usually at like a like kind of crummy place, or like sometimes it'll be at like a, you know, random like mini like area. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like in shopping malls or something. Like it's
exactly that's the word, shopping mall.
Yeah, it's just like in a random office building that the casting directors found, which whatever, fine. But yeah, it's usually like not on the lot. It's not anything like professional, really.
No. But then when I got to the third audition, I was like, oh wow, this is like a nice like office. Like they sit me down with around like this nice table. They give me like water and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. So And then they call me in, and then Colin Farrell is sitting right there in the corner with the director and the writer of True Detective. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was yeah, that was really cool. And then I was like, we read it together, and obviously they liked me enough, and that was a really cool audition.
I truly can't even fathom doing a chemistry read with Colin Farrell. I think I would pass out.
Yeah. It's good that I didn't like completely like comprehend that when I was that young.
Yeah.
That's a great thing about being a child actor, because you're like going into it, you're like, okay, I don't know, this guy's whatever, you know?
Well, yeah, especially too with like big things like that, chemistry reads, testings, all of that stuff. There's so many people in the room, and I feel like as an adult, you kind of overthink it all, and you're like, oh my God, all these people are going to be there. But when you're a kid, you just go and you're like, hi, what are we doing? Great.
Exactly. When you're an adult, you're like, okay, this might be the producer, that might be the writer, that might be the director. But when you're a kid, you're like, oh, there's a person with brown hair, there's a girl over there, you know? It's like, it's all the same.
I love that.
So that was a really cool audition story. And then I have one that I did not get the role of. So this one, so my mom, my sister, and I, we lived in Bakersfield, which is a town. There were a lot of stray dogs. It's kind of a random thing that's there. They have a lot of stray dogs.
Aww.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. We had a lot of like rescue dogs, and we still have one. She's here in the other room. But pretty much, I went on this audition for Goodwill Hunting with Josh Brolin, and they liked me a lot. They called me back once. They called me back for a third callback, and we were on the way with these like 10 rescue puppies in this rental car with my sister. We had booked a resort in Reno, Nevada. So we're driving up, we hit Sacramento, and my agent calls my mom, and she's like, hey, they want to see you like tomorrow at like 10 a.m. Meanwhile, we're in like Sacramento driving to Reno at like 10 at night. We have this resort for 3 days in Reno. We're making a trip out of like delivering these puppies to Reno, Nevada.
Oh my God.
And my mom's like, no. My mom's like, we have this like thing. Like, I'm sorry, we can't like come. And eventually, like the agent kept calling. Like we were like, okay, fine, we'll come back. So we get to the resort. We drop the puppies off. Whatever. We park the car. It's like 3 a.m. I'm like exhausted from this drive. I'm like, I go to bed for like 3 hours. We wake up. The freaking valet of the resort didn't even like take our car around. Our car's still sitting out there. So we get all our stuff back down. And it was a really nice resort. I was looking forward to like staying there. Maybe I'll go back one day. But anyways, we leave at like 6 a.m. We're on the way back down. We go to the audition, and he's in there, and like it went well. And we leave. We go down, and there was an ice cream shop down the street. So we get ice cream, and like the agents, meanwhile, is calling my mom. My mom like had her ringer off. She thought it was like spam or something. She's like, I don't know how you feel, but I don't really answer my phone unless it's like a contact or. I usually don't answer my phone.
I don't. No. Unless I know the number, there's no way.
Yeah, it's either got a 310 number or like a contact, or I'm not answering.
100%.
But anyways, we're getting ice cream. Like I'm like, okay, cool. We did this audition. It went well. And the agent was like, she had to call my dad, and my dad called my mom, and she was like, hey, they want you to come right back in. So we go back in there. Yeah, we go back in there. And there's like a bunch of more people that showed up, and like I'm like, okay, how many like auditions am I gonna do? Like, this is like the 6th audition, and they were talking about like flying me out to North Carolina to like see how I fit there, or like something like that. And like, meanwhile, like we're like, why are there so many people here? You know, like when you go to like a callback, you expect there to be less people.
Yeah. This
is like the 6th callback after we just like did all this stuff, and we're like, oh my gosh. So anyways, I leave, and then they call my mom a few days later. They're like, hey, like we're not going to fly him out to North Carolina. Like we're going to hire somebody locally there. And
oh like, my gosh.
That was a bad story. I had the bad one and the good one.
Oh, that's so upsetting. Oh
I
no.
Know. Yeah.
Ugh.
No resort, no job.
Wait, what happened to the puppies?
The puppies got dropped off, and the puppies were good. Okay. That was a win. The puppies were a win. The ice cream was a win. Those are the 2 wins.
Oh, gosh. That's crazy. You know, it's so interesting when productions do that, when it's like they go through all this effort of casting somebody, and then they're like, we're going to hire locally, which, hey, I love when productions hire locally. I know that, you have to, a certain amount of people. And I think it's important that they hire local actors. But it's so sad when they do this where they like put it out as a nationwide casting, and then they're like, actually, we're just going to do this. And you're like, oh, but I put so much work in this. What do you mean?
Right. It's like unethical at a point, but yeah.
True. Very true. Well, thank you for sharing those. Let's talk a little bit about Happy Endings Funeral Parlor and how that came about.
So that is a very fun story and a very fun project that I'm very happy to be a part of. So my family friend is actually the writer of it, Kyle. He came to my mom with it, and he said, hey, Trevor, he's an actor. I'd like him to be a part of this. And I was like, I read the script. I thought it's so funny. Right now it's a short, but we're working on doing a full length. And it's a buddy comedy. It's two brothers who work for their uncle's struggling funeral parlor business.
Oh, man.
And they just keep messing everything up. They keep messing it up, and he's just can't like deal with it anymore. And it's actually a really impressive cast for being a short. Corbin Burnson, nice. He's in it. It's so funny. I was actually just got back from New York for the screening of it at the Soho Film Festival.
Oh, awesome.
And being able to see it on like that big screen like that was really, really, really impressive. And genuinely, it's one of the things I'm most proud of to be a part of. Definitely.
That's so exciting. So it's hopefully being turned into a feature.
Yes.
And
We're ready for the feature.
You're like, let's go.
Yeah, we're ready. Yes.
Whoever's listening, let's do this.
Yes, exactly.
Is this something that you want to spend more time doing too? Like diving into the more production side of things as well?
Definitely. I've always been so fascinated with how it works, even as a young kid, like being like crafting something, like being a part of like actually building it like from the ground up. Because I'd always been like, okay, like I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna be on the show for one day. I'm gonna like say a few things and like leave, be in my trailer, whatever. But like actually being able to like say something about the script or like those kind of things, I feel like that's a big part of becoming an adult actor too. I feel like transitioning from being a child.
Yeah, is actually being able to have a little bit more of a creative input.
Yeah, definitely.
Is directing ever in your future? Do you see yourself doing that?
I could. I actually, that's another thing that I've always been intrigued on. Like when I was on Fresh Off the Boat for so many times, like all the cameramen there and the director, I'd always be like close with them. And like, I feel like I've always been very understanding of how it works. Like as far as directing goes and how everything's set up, setups and everything like that. And definitely that's something that's in my thought, in my horizon. It's in like the back pocket of my mind. It's not like at the front, but it's there.
It's there. You'll do it one day.
It's there. Definitely.
I mean, I remember on the To the Beat sets, like I feel like you were always first off, there were so many kids on that set. It was It was so difficult Chaotic. To keep my brain on straight. But I feel like you were one of the actors who you're just always there. It's like you could read our minds. You were like, yep, I know I'm going to be here and I know I'm going to be there. And I was like, oh, well, great. Let's just go then.
Thank you. That means a lot. Because I do try. I've always tried to be very professional and like understanding of like what people want from me on the set. Like be like, oh, hey, the director's like going to move the cameras here. I need to like get out of the way or do something like simple things like that. I feel like is a big part of not only being a child actor, but being an actor in general.
100%. I mean, it just shows like how connected you are to the experience, right? And like knowing not only like where you should be, but just, I don't know, it's so hard to explain, but it definitely is that thing where it's like, I always felt that you were one of the actors who was always very connected to like, yeah, I know that I need to be over here now. And I'm just going to go over here because they're going to move things. And like, I felt like I didn't even have to direct you much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's been so fun having you here and catching up. Is there anything else that you want to talk about while I got you here?
Mainly, I mean, I'm very excited with the Happy Endings Funeral Parlor. I think that's the main thing that I have working on right now. I mean, working on it a lot. Obviously, traveling to the film festivals, and be on the lookout for that. And obviously, catch up with me on social media and stuff like that. I post every once in a while on TikTok and Instagram. It's just my name, but it has been a very, very nice time catching up with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
So nice having you, and I can't wait to see the feature of this.
Yes.
In production very soon, universe.
Yes.
You hear that?
Whoever's listening. Yes.
Thanks again to Trevor for coming on the show. I can't wait to see all of the things that he accomplishes in his life. I know he's going to be so freaking kick-ass and, probably be the next household name. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check us out on YouTube. The link is in the show notes. You can also follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with who's coming on the show. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Listening to a podcast should be time well spent, and I promise it will be if you'll give this podcast a try. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in every episode, I talk with leading experts on topics I know you will find fascinating. From why people can't keep secrets, what your favorite music says about you, why your pet acts in strange ways, and so much more. Something You Should Know is designed to give you information you can use in your life and give you great intel that you can share with others. I'm told it's a binge-worthy podcast, and with over 1,000 episodes, there's a lot to binge on. Something You Should Know has been ranked in the top of the Apple Podcast charts consistently for a long time. I know you're going to like this. I just need to get you to try it. Something You Should Know. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Nowadays, trends and news cycles change faster than we can blink. But there are some things that withstand the test of time. And if you're looking for a connection to something timeless, and maybe also a glimpse of life at a slower pace, I believe everyone can relate to the very human experiences explored in Jane Austen's novels. And that's where I come in. My name is Alison Larkin. I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin. I spent a lot of my childhood in the part of England where Jane Austen lived and wrote, and now that I live in the States, nothing gives me a sense of homecoming quite like narrating her books. On this show, you'll listen to award-winning narration. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that, as well as conversations with actors, writers, and other fascinating people who all share a passionate love for Jane Austen. So please, join me as we embark on a wonderful journey through Jane Austen's work. Be sure to listen and subscribe to the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin, wherever you get your podcasts.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to speak of them or talk about them or in any way portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. It would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out Real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.